Welcome to Totally Witchin', your guide to harnessing the transformational power of mystery, magic, and muse. Are you ready to find your mojo and become your own hero? It's time to get witchy. Let's tap in, simmer down, and start creating a magical life. Yo witches, what's up? Asha Lightbearer here with Totally Witchin', and today I'm here to talk about how to use soul communication for emotional healing. So let's start with what is soul communication and why do you want it? Soul communication is a great way to say what you need to say to somebody, get a message across that you cannot get here in physical form. Maybe it's not safe to talk to the person here because they are irrational or unbalanced or even perhaps they're past, and so you physically can't talk to them here. But whenever you're faced with a situation where you cannot have any communication with someone here on the physical plane in a safe or meaningful way, and you have unfinished business with them that you really need some closure on, or that you wish to communicate or process with them or at them in some cases, that's when you can use soul communication. So soul communication is a level where you can participate on what we call the etheric plane, the non-physical plane. So if you believe, as I do, that you are more than what's in the body here, and you have perhaps multiple lives, multiple instances of yourself, or you have a soul or a spirit or all of the above, and you belong to this bigger cosmic realm where we exist in non-physical form with all of our parts, our intelligence, our unique constellation of attributes that makes up each of us, then there is this non-physical portion of us that is intrinsically part of us, or I guess we could say that we are an intrinsic part of them. And so if you have something that you really need to work through, you can do it through some intention and some protocol. You can connect at this soul level and get the message across. And I have to tell you, this works like magic. It really does. It is magic. It's very magical. It may not be ritual with candles and incense and stuff like that, but there is a specific way that you can accomplish this, and you definitely want to go into it with sacred space and making sure that your space is clear and that you're centered and grounded, and then you can trek into this. So what does it look like? Soul communication, basically, the short of it is that you would open the sacred space and imagine the person that you need to deal with. It could be a pet, even if you have something you want to communicate with your deceased pet or whatever. But you imagine that person in front of you. And sometimes you can see them, sometimes you can't see them. I've had clients that, for instance, couldn't see their past relative, but they could sense that they were near. Once they opened that door and they set their intention and they asked for help and they called in the person, then they could feel the presence of the person near them and had this sense that they were there. And then they can say what they need to say. Now, sometimes that's nice. Sometimes it's just a heartfelt, wow, I can't believe you're gone. I miss you, and I appreciate everything you did for me. Blah, 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 blah. There's usually a little more to it than that because there's a reason why you're doing this. So that would be usually some unresolved emotional baggage, something you didn't get to say something important. The last thing you said was bad. The last thing they said to you was bad, something like that. Or I did a lot of soul communication with my dad when I was cleaning up stuff years ago in my life. I had a lot of baggage with him because we had a very toxic relationship, and it still has its moments, but it's largely better. And it started getting better when I started using this process. He was completely unaware of it, of course. on a physical level. I didn't go say, hey, Dad, guess what? I did this process with you. And, he had no idea. But he started reacting differently, and I started acting differently with him because I had walked through the process. So what is soul communication good for? It's great for boundary setting. It's great for cord cutting. It's great for expressing damage, telling somebody, you're so toxic. The mess that you have made, I've spent thousands of dollars on therapy or whatever it is. You can do those things. And when you're doing it, you want to keep in mind that you're not just talking to the wall or talking to your plant. Not that that's not great. Talking to your plants is great for them and probably for you too. But you're setting the intention that this is a message out to that person's soul. And you want them to know how much harm they've done or how much good they've done. And it's really important, especially if it's harmful and toxic. It's really important because if you do believe that there are cosmic consequences of any kind, and that especially if you believe in multiple lives. I don't like the word reincarnation because that leaves the idea that you go one life to the next and it's linear, and that's not how I see it, or it's been shown to me at all. So I just like to say multiple lives. There are many versions of my soul in different slightly different personalities and trying different things and living different ways and doing different things. So if you believe that there are any consequences and that our soul has this greater reach and grasp over our lives and how we interact with others, and maybe if you believe in soul lessons, or a feeling of a need to come back and do things again if you totally screw up. Some of us believe in that. Some of us believe in the concept of karma and a need to balance. And if someone is really screwing up and incredibly toxic, it's so important to get that information to them, whether it's here while they're still alive or when they've passed. But either way, you can do it on this etheric plane with your intention and your imagination and your intuitive process, because they need to fully understand how toxic they are and all the damage that they're doing, because it doesn't help anyone for you not to be able to convey this. They don't get the benefit of it, especially if the body and the small self here is completely incapable or unwilling or has no desire to take positive action, make any changes. Having a conversation with them here would not be helpful. But having the conversation with the soul and really conveying. And the beauty of this process is that you can go to the nth degree. Meaning, okay, so here's a little example. My dad said something the other day to my son that I was pissed. It was just the same old shitty toxic behavior that I grew up with and have spent a lot of effort, getting past and becoming my best self. And it burns my ass when I see anybody treat my son that way. So what happened was I couldn't let it go. And this is old news for me. But when it happens to my son, I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. So I was mulling it over, and I just kept chewing on it for, I don't know, an hour, maybe more than an hour the next morning when I woke up. And then I thought, you know what? I am going to take full advantage of this soul communication process. And the beauty of it is I've done it so many times that I can do it in 10 minutes. This is something you can use over and over and over. So what I did literally was I became willing to look ridiculous and feel stupid and throw basically a little moment of temper tantrum. And so I opened my space, meaning that I'm being intentional when I'm doing this. And I chose to yell and swear and whatever it was at him with the intention of his soul getting the full message of how damaging the things that he does are. And I yelled and said anything I could think of and tried it on, hard and furious, and screamed and flailed my arms, and I don't know if I stomped my feet, but that would have been okay. And then in my mind's eye, I imagined kicking his head like a football out of the stadium, out of my neighborhood, over the wall, and just gone, out of the park. That's all I kept thinking. Just kick the head out of the park, which sounds crazy and abusive, but it's not. The beauty of it is that I was able to say what I needed to say. And in my experience, most resentment that I see in people and upset comes from them not taking the action that they feel they should have taken on their own behalf, or not saying what they feel they should have said on their own behalf, or not protecting somebody else. And in this case, I did what I could on the physical plane. It was not well received, and he was not willing to take any responsibility or admit at all that he had made a whole slew of assumptions. So I had to do it another way. And the minute I did my visualization and I intentionally imagined showing him how angry I was that he did this to my son, it was over. That was it. I was done. I took a deep breath. I had expended some energy out of my body because I had tightened my muscles and play acted through it. And I had been very clear in my intention setting and that he would get that message. And that was all I needed to do. And it just washed away and I was done. That's it. Close the circle. Thank you, thank you. And I'm not talking about a fancy witch's circle or something like that. I didn't even light a candle. I didn't do any of that formal ritual stuff. I just used my energy, my intention, and my mind and my focus. And I did it in a way that was intended for clarity, healing, and the best possible outcome for all. Because I believe that in communicating that to him at the etheric level, because I cannot get any co-creation here in this plane, the physical plane, that's the best thing I could do for him so that his soul can take that information and use it accordingly for his own development. And if they don't, they don't. And that's how it rolls. But at least I did my part in being clear to help them understand the consequences, because he's not around or nearby to us to even see the consequences. And from his state of mind and his old-fashioned thinking, I don't think he's capable of really understanding or seeing the consequences. So anyway, that's a very long story to explain the level of detail that you can go, and a very, very simple process. So you center, you open, ask for help. Ask for divine help. You imagine the person in front of you. You speak to them. You tell them what you need to tell them. Now, there's a lot more that you can do. There are a lot more caveats. There's a lot more journey work that you can do. But this is the really fundamental basics that you can try on your own if you'd like. You're not going to do any harm. If it doesn't work out, feel free to contact me on my website, which is just totallyWitchin.com, and put in an inquiry, and if you are interested in a session or something like that, I can help you with it. But first, start at home. Just try on your own. Say what you need to say. If you want to get really fancy, you can pay attention after you talk to them and see what they have to say back. Is there anything coming back? Can you sense or feel something coming off them? There are a lot of caveats and other things that can unfold, but it's a pretty simple process and it's worth the try. And I do want to differentiate that the difference here between soul communication and just venting, like rage therapy is what pops into my mind. Some people say, you just got to get it off your chest. Well, you do have to just get it off your chest. But you can rant and rave and go around in circles and be angry for days and hours and weeks and months and years. Some people hold grudges for years. And the point of this is not just to bitch about it, but to actually do something intentional and energetic about it so that you don't feel like you need to bitch about it anymore. It washes away. It washes off. You let it go. Now, some people would say, oh, well, you can't be mean. That's awful. A lot of people are horrified by the thought of being mean to somebody. But when you really get that, do you really want them to have to come back and try again not to be as awful of a person in another life? I don't. So I would rather give them a chance and let them straighten up so they don't have to do that, because I personally wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that kind of bad behavior if I had been the one doing it. So if you believe in karma, that's kind of a little karmic twist there, where by being mean at a safe level where you're not harming anybody, you're just conveying information and feeling and emotion, then you're actually doing the best thing for you and for them. And which also eliminates the possibility for spiritual bypass. Spiritual bypass is when you try to think positively and just put on the happy face and tuck that bad memory away in a box in the corner of your psyche. And what's going to happen is eventually it's going to pop back up and it's going to bite you. And it's going to come out in the wrong time in the wrong way. You can't just stuff stuff. You can't stuff stuff your whole life and expect that it's not going to have some kind of negative consequence on you. You also don't learn better ways of interacting if you don't practice. And so you can also look at this soul communication as a dress rehearsal for gaining your power, finding your strength, calling in an ally. A lot of people believe in angels. They love angels and guides and magical helpers, or Jesus, or whoever is your guru that you prefer. You can call them in to help you. If you don't have the strength yourself, then you can call them in to help you confront that person. You can even ask them to speak for you on your behalf, if that's what it takes. But what that does is it doesn't allow you to sit in your room, in your yoga pose and pretend like all is well if you can just breathe deep and let it go and push it away. Now, if you really can, just breathe it off and let it go, and it rolls away, and you never think of it again, and it never bothers you. And if it comes up, it doesn't pick at you or give you feelings. Okay, there are some things that you can definitely take a deep breath and just consider the source and keep moving. But if you are trying to force it away by pushing it in a box somewhere else in your mind so you don't have to deal with it, there's the question. Is it just that you don't want to deal with it? Ask yourself. That kind of positive thinking and Pollyanna doesn't actually get the emotional catharsis that will really change your life and empower you and help you to step out. So the next time that you have a challenge with someone, you can try this little process, open your space and ask for help. Imagine your person in front of you, have a conversation with them if possible, yell at them if you need to, kick their head out of the ballpark like a football or whatever, if you need to, whatever feels good for you. And when you're done, just take a deep breath and acknowledge any non-physical help that you've had and say thank you and set your intentions for your next best outcome and your ability to deal with this person in the future, and then close your circle and go on. So go ahead, add this tool to your toolbox and let me know how it works out for you, or if you get stuck with any challenges. That's it for today. Peace out, witches.